Good evening and Jai Gurudev. Myself, Ms. Gayatri Sadashiv Dhume, welcome all of you wholeheartedly to our today's live session on agriculture is the place to be in future post-COVID scenario. With India being under a lockdown for over 2 months now, several sectors are now staring at massive revenue losses and even degrowth. However, there is one sector which can absorb the shock of the coronavirus and deliver respectable growth, and that's agriculture. And that's where we are today to have an insightful, informative discussion on the post COVID impact and also to know the real scope or the opportunities that lies in studying in this sector. Today we have with us 5 of our panel members, the experts from our Faculty of Agriculture at Sri Sri University. We have with us the Dean of Agriculture, Professor Kumaraswamy, who has over 26 years of experience in research and academics in broad interdisciplinary areas. He has published over 70 plus research articles in international journals of repute and also is a member of various scientific forums and organizations. His main interest and passion lies in teaching, conceptualization of innovative curriculum, and also institution building. I welcome to you, sir, for the session. Our next panel members are the young faculty members of the Faculty of Agriculture, Mr. Subrat Kumar Mohanty, who is specialized in agronomy, Dr. Subalakshmi Palli, who is a gold medalist in fruit science and also a fellowship awardee, Dr. Anupama Singh, the assistant professor in the department, and Dr. Snehashish Rautre, who is also gold medalist in entomology and also a fellowship awardee. I welcome all of you to this session. We would like first to begin with our Dean, Professor Kumaraswamy. So the lockdown has impacted almost every sector in the country. Can you give a short brief on the impact of the lockdown on the agricultural sector?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. And thank you for organizing this interactive sessions. I also welcome all my faculty colleagues for the interactive session. And the question, it's very difficult to answer this question considering the current scenario, what we have seen when it comes to the hardship the farmers are being faced in rural areas. At the same time, the hardship is also a opportunity for the farmers. Whatever we have, I said the topic of today's discussion is agriculture is the place to be in the future after the COVID scenario. At the same time, I would also phrase the same sentence as future is in agriculture. If you go back to see, if you go back in history and analyze the Indian agricultural sector, we have 70% of the population in this country is dependent on agriculture. The livelihood system, whatever the produce that comes from the raw material, everything is dependent on agriculture sector only. Meaning, the primary career, the option we have in this country is agriculture. Most of the population dependent on agriculture. However, the current scenario, which is unprecedented and uncalled and unannounced disaster, what we have seen right now, there's a COVID scenario which has really impacted the farmer. At the same time, farmer also has found a way to overcome the disaster. Just to quote an example, farmers now, they have become more resilient. They know which crop they should take up in the scenario, present them in a difficult scenario, so that the revenue generation continues. They will not have a loss of revenue just because of this scenario. They also have found out a way how to market their produce in the nearest market in a direct way, where the middleman is not part of their marketing strategy. And also they are getting better price, so that they are directly selling it to the end user, they are getting better price. At the same time, they also have understood what are the market needs at this moment. So what kind of produce they should be producing, so that they will not have run through the loss of the produce, or it can perish and they will not find a market. These are all the domains farmer has understood. At the same time, the farmer also has faced the inputs needs. For example, he needs fertilizer, he needs several pesticides, he also needs several other crop management inputs. So those are all the areas farmer has really undergone the distress scenario, because he has no access to the market, because the entire market is closed right now. So under these scenarios, how best the farmers should be able to manage whatever the resources which is available on the farm, how best they can use the resources, and how best they can economize the resources which they are going to use, so that they will not have additional cost in producing a crop. That is also a good way of looking at it. Farmers can revert back to their standard earlier days of farming, that can be organic farming or natural farming or minimal use of chemical fertilizers or chemical inputs on their farm. That will also add value to the produce they are going to produce, that will have a bigger market that sells in a premium rates. So these are all the opportunities which are available right now with the farmer, considering the current scenario. At the same time, farmers can also build a cooperative system where most of the farmers in Indian scenario, they have most of the farmers are marginal farmers. They have a minimum land holding, maybe an acre, maybe a half an acre, maybe 2.5 acres. Most of the, if you take an average number of farmers, most of the farmers will be having 2 acres of land or 1.5 acres of land. The farmers, the produce coming from that small piece of land will be small quantity. If they can come together, the farmers which are living in a small cluster villages, they come together, put those produce in one place, the produce quantity becomes larger. So they can easily find a market, they will not have a difficulty to find a market. So meaning the transport cost, the cost of transport can be minimized when they have a large quantity of produce. These are all the mechanisms already farmers have adopted. They're already reaping the benefit. Farmers seems to have only problem when it comes to sourcing their inputs. So this COVID scenario also closes the door for them to utilize chemical fertilizers or chemicals on their farm, so they can produce the crop which has a high, which sells in a premium rates in the market by utilizing the resources which are available on the farm. Meaning the farmers will have a chance to go back to organic way of farming to produce a crop. This is a avenue most of the farmers right now have.
Right, sir. Along with this, there's one more question that has come, sir. And that is a topic which is right now going a lot in these last 2 months. And that is on our migrant workers. So how do you see the migrant workers playing a role in reforming the agriculture after lockdown?
Yeah, this seems to be a very, very valid question. The reason here is the migration, the agriculture sector, which is really, really suffering right now for the want of laborers, those who can work in the field. Earlier, the system was all the family members, they worked in the field, they supported the agriculture activities. Right now, what is happening is everybody is migrating from rural areas to cities in search of a job. This has resulted in want of laborers, those who can work in the field. Right now, most of the farmers in India, as I said previously, they are marginal farmers having 1 acre or 1.5 acre, maximum 5 acres of land. They will not have easy access to the technology usage on the farm. The technology which is available, which is not directly usable on the farm, though there are technologies being evolved so that they can be utilized on the Indian farming sector, which is small land holding. But the labor force, that is the main force that is really, really required to work in the field. So with this COVID scenario, whatever the population that is migrated from rural areas to cities in search of a job or alternative livelihood system, they will go back to the rural areas. When they go back to the rural areas, they will not have any other option to generate their livelihood or find an alternative source of income. So meaning all these population, they are going back to the rural areas, they are available to work in the field. They will be a high resource, high labor force, which is available for to be engaged in the farming areas. Meaning it will really help the farming sector to revive the farming sector where the labor force is available, and also they can be utilized in the farm. So farming produce, the productivity of the farmland can be increased much in a larger folder, and the margin of benefits the farmer derives by utilizing laborers, the cost of labor will be much cheaper than the engaging the technology on the farm, which is a small area. So meaning these laborers, the migrant laborers, they're going back to rural areas, they can be directly engaged in the field to several farming activities, meaning it's a cheap labor. Again, it's available for the farmer to practice the farming in a effective way to generate more income. Yeah, this is one of the benefit what I see. The migrant workers, they are returning back to home. They are returning back to agriculture again. Yeah.
Right, sir. So, sir, you were mentioning about the inputs because that is the most important concern for the farmers today. So with this, there was one more question which had come to us, that not just about the supplies, but also about the subsidies which are given to the farmers and which reach to them in an indirect channel via the government. Even that is right now not available because of the lockdown. So how can the farmers now ensure not just about the subsidy, but also about getting the good planting material during the initial post-COVID situation?
Yeah, this question seems to be very valid when it comes to revitalizing the agricultural sector. The subsidy which is given typically for the chemical fertilizers, most of the farmers, they enjoy the subsidies given by the government. It is for the chemical fertilizers that are being used in the farming activities. This can be analyzed in two ways. One is subsidy is really a requirement for the farmers, because when you have a subsidy, the cost of fertilizer will be lesser. At the same time, when the cost of fertilizer is lesser, farmers tend to use the fertilizer to a larger extent. You will try to apply large quantity of fertilizer on the field that will result in degradation of soil itself, so that the soil will lose its inherent ability to produce a crop over a longer period. Meaning, you will lose the original ability of soil productivity. The productive capacity of soil will start approaching declining trend if you keep on using the fertilizer. Meaning, subsidy can be usable to a certain extent, where the farmers can utilize the fertilizer to a limited extent on the farm. At the same time, if you give continuous subsidy to the farmers tend to buy more and more chemical fertilizers, apply onto the field. So one day he realizes that his soil is dead. It will not be able to yield crop without addition of a fertilizer. So in this scenario, the current scenario, the COVID scenario, will result in farmer not having a subsidy to a certain extent, so that he has no buying ability of a chemical fertilizers, the inputs which are typically chemical in nature. Meaning, he will tend to use less and less of these chemical fertilizers on his field. At the same time, he will use the traditional methods of farming activities, so that will not degrade the soil. At the same time, whatever the produce he produces, it is premium in terms of nutritional value, because it has no chemical in it, or also chemical fertilizers. When it comes to sourcing the seed material, earlier there was a concept in the farming or rural areas, they're called farmer seeds. Farmer seeds means each village, the farmers, they grew different type of crop, they had a different cropping pattern in each village. In those villages, they stored certain crop seeds through selection process. The farmer went around the field, he identified certain crops which are yielding very high. Some of the plants which are giving very high yield, they identified, they tagged them, they left them in the field, they collected the seed when the entire seed was mature. Those seeds were collected thinking that this particular genotype has high yielding ability. That kind of seeds were produced in each village. They were stored, they were barter exchanged with the next village, so that the next village has a different type of crops, so you can exchange these seeds with the other village farmers, so that the seed is conserved in different villages. At the same time, both the farmers in the different villages are benefited, so that those seeds were having high vigor and also high yielding potential. They are typically called farmer seeds. This concept exists in rural sectors in interior villages, though the monopoly which is occupied by the corporate sector, where they produce the hybrid seeds are invariably, they need high input management. Without chemical fertilizer addition, these crops cannot yield to the potential. When it comes to the farmer's field, with minimum management aspect, minimum fertilizer management, with whatever the crop residues which are available on the farm, or the compost, addition of farmland manure or organic fertilizers, with that you can still able to harvest the economic yield. When it comes to high yielding varieties, you need to invest a lot of money, you need to a lot of chemical fertilizer, that will be very expensive. At the end of it, if you compare the yield potential of these two practices, one is chemical farming, other one is conventional way of farming, where farmers will use farmer seeds. They have high yielding abilities, but they need minimum input management. So these are all the scenarios that will give a potential option for farmers to choose which is the best practice, so that he can minimize the cost, at the same time he can get the economic benefits. So meaning, still farmers need not depend on the corporates for hybrid seeds. He can still produce its own quality seed at the farm itself through the selection process, which is called farmer seeds. This practice is still there. This is the best and very robust method.
Yeah, I think it also answers one of the questions that was asked, that how to be real Atmanirbhar in this situation. So it's very valid, very valid. Thank you for that, sir.
Yeah, I will add to that Atmanirbhar question. The point I always say, today's discussion title is Future is in Agriculture, and agriculture is the place to be in the future, meaning the student, those who are graduating now, those who are opting to learn agriculture, they will become farmers in the later stage. They will not seek for a job. They realize that there is a huge potential in farming areas because they are informed in terms of the scientific knowledge they carry, the farming activities. They carry robust scientific knowledge, the methods, tools, approaches, whatever that is used, the technologies that can be used or applied in the farming sector, so that he can produce more crop per unit area or more crop per unit drop of water, which is used for irrigation of the crops. Meaning the graduates, those who are passing out from now onwards, the next generation of the student, those who are well informed, educated, they will go back to the farming. Definitely they will, large chunk of these graduates, those who are passing out, they will go back to the farming, they will become a progressive farmers. This is one of the areas everybody is thinking, how best the youth can be reverted back to the agricultural areas, rural sectors, so that take up the farming as their job. So it is not like he may be called as a farmer, but it is also a job. That's also a lovely system. And that is how the future is going to be. All these literate students are going back to the rural areas. They are going to become farmers. They are well informed. They know how to grow the crop using scientific technologies or scientific methods, or how best the technologies can be integrated in a best possible way into farming sector, so that they can derive more economic yield per unit area. Yeah, this is going to be future, which I see. This is going to be future in agriculture. That's the reason I said future is in agriculture.
Very true, sir. So one more question that has come is, it also appears that it may take more time for other sectors and industries to rise again, while shorter time for agriculture. Do you suggest any reforms that the government should be implementing to fasten this process?
Well, yes, there are, honestly speaking, there are plenty of government programs already existing which are directed towards farmers. Unfortunately, what is the big gap, what we see here is extension activities. The most of the farmers, they are not aware of what are the programs which are available or implemented by the government, which are typically directed to the farming areas. There are 2-3 areas I see which are really a priority areas for improving or revitalizing the agriculture sector, where the scenario seems to be very, very difficult. What we call as disaster management. This is a scenario, what we call disaster. It is also applicable to agriculture. There are 3 areas which I can identify right now. One is how best farmers can get the minimum inputs he needs to practice the farming activity right now, and what are the technologies which are available, which are cheap and cost effective, which can be transferred to the farmer so that the farmer can utilize it on the farm. And also, what are the market linkages to sell his produce? There are situations, still the market is one of the areas which is serious concern in the farming sector. Farmers are not able to get the right price, whatever the produce they're producing. We have had an example of farmers just throwing the agricultural produce, not able to find a market due to the transportation of the produce from his field to the nearest market. So how best we can build this system, and also have a new thought process where earlier farmers had a cooperatives. They had 10 farmers, they came together, they had one particular crop produce available with them. They put it in one basket, they made it a bigger basket. So that once you have a quantity which is larger, which can be transferred to the nearest place, so that the transportation costs can be shared by these 10 farmers, so that still they don't have losses for selling a small quantity of produce. For example, if a farmer has a 5 kg, he doesn't know how to sell that 5 kg. Though it is a premium product, he will not find a market. If he has to transport that 5 kgs to the nearest market, the transportation cost will be much more than the produce itself. So when you have 10 farmers come together, if you put all those 5 kgs of each farmer, the quantity of the produce will be 100 kg, maybe 200 kg. So transport the 200 kg, you need one transportation only. The cost of transportation will be same as transportation of 5 kg of that produce. So meaning the cost of transportation can be shared by the farmer, but farmer will not lose the benefit he is going to get by selling that product. Meaning, if you can build a cooperative to a small scale, when you want to manage the disaster, this kind of unforced, unseen situations, the farmers can come together, they can build the produce, they can find a market in the nearest place, so that still they can sell the produce. They need not throw away the product which is available in the produce. So such kind of systems are going to come in the future. That may not be a formally organized kind of system. It's an informally organized system in the rural areas, which was existing earlier. Why this system was removed from the agriculture sector is because now most of the agricultural landscapes are monocultured. They grow only one type of crop. Earlier, every farmer grew all types of crop. There was a cropping pattern. He had many crops in one piece of land. That has gone now. So the future is going to be in a scenario where farmers will try to have more than one crop on his field, so that he can derive benefit from selling all these crops which is going to grow on a small piece of land. When a village farmers come together and they try to put the produce in one basket, so the quantity will become larger, so that he can find a market in the nearest place and still he can get a premium price for the produce. So these kind of systems are going to evolve and they're going to come back again. Meaning, that's what the point I'm trying to say is, the revitalization of agriculture is going to happen now because of this scenario.
It's true. I think from what you have been explaining, it's very evident that the demand now to study agriculture will be much more as compared to the past few years. So, sir, we have also started a Faculty of Agriculture in Srisha University. What do you feel? What is the vision of Srisha University to start this Faculty of Agriculture, and how differently is it crafted here?
Okay, so I will just go through the philosophy behind starting a Faculty of Agriculture at Srisha University. The state of Odisha is typically dominated by agricultural activity. This state is known for agricultural activity. This faculty was initiated in this Srisha University with a focus on building a team of faculty with interdisciplinary expertise, so that they can take up teaching and also research and also outreach activity, and also evolve innovative course curriculum. We'll also want to offer new programs under Faculty of Agriculture, so that it can be useful for the state and also country at large, so that the students what we have right now in the Faculty of Agriculture, we are cosmopolitan. The students are coming from different states of the country. So that has given us a big leverage, and also we enjoy having students from differences, so that the student community is diverse and learn from each other. So the next point is design some problem from solving tools and technologies which are usable on the farm. We'll also work through some of the areas where we'll identify the problem and also we'll try to provide some solutions. We're also working towards that. This faculty will also work towards providing some solutions to the problems which are existing in this state, and also some of the tools and technology which we develop, which can be replicated elsewhere also. The farmers can utilize the tools and technologies which are going to be developed in this Faculty of Agriculture. We are in the baby step. We are taking the baby step. Future is going to be in that direction. We will try to focus on developing tools and technologies which are typically problem solving side, not generic type. That is one of the areas which we are looking at. And also we want to develop pro-farmer outreach activities. We want to provide training or conduct workshops which are directed towards farmers. There are situations, there are problems which farmers are not able to solve themselves. We'll try to give some training to the farmer, enhance the skill sets or ability to do the farming in a very scientific way. We will try to build some outreach programs so that They will come to the campus. We will have a focused training programs organized, a focused workshop organized, so that we will provide solutions or train the farmers or the stakeholders. You need not be farmers. There can be stakeholders at different levels. We will train them so that they try to practice whatever the activities or avenues or options available in agriculture sector. The last point is we want to, when we start practicing over a period, we tend to mature as a faculty. Once we mature, we want to build the center of excellence, so that the center of excellence means most of the expertise available with us, and also we should be able to practice teaching, that is education. Next one is research, conduct research, which is typically problem solving. The third point is outreach activities. This is the philosophy behind it. We have started, currently we have 3 programs, ongoing programs. First one is BSc Honors in Agriculture. The second one is BSc Honors in Horticulture. Third one is BSc Honors in Agribusiness. All these programs are successfully done. We are full in terms of admissions. There is a huge demand to take the increase in number. Currently, we are trying to focus on how best we can build the excellence in our teaching program. That we have achieved to our satisfaction right now. We're enjoying that currently, and we tend to excel. We want to improve ourselves, make it more student-centric approach, so that is what has been our approach, that has been really given a big dividend or big satisfaction to us, because we have taken student-centric approach to teaching and learning process. At the same time, we have also integrated experiential learning as one of the major focus. Whatever the courses the student learn, every course has an experiential learning. And also the teachers take students along with them, and they also counsel the student, either it's a personal level problems or certain difficulties in learning. So teachers have already working with the student in a close interactions that has really helped to student to fall in line for teaching learning process. This has been really our philosophy so far. This has really given us a big satisfaction so far. Yeah, and also I must say that I must add all my faculty colleagues. They have done a wonderful job in putting things together and then contributing for the growth of the Faculty of Agriculture. It's a very satisfying feeling. Yeah.
Very nice to hear that, sir. Thank you so much, sir. I'll again come back to you. Coming on to our next speaker, Subrat sir, who is also a faculty in the Department of Agriculture and also specializing in agronomy. So Subrat sir, one question for you. Why is it important to have the right knowledge on agronomy, and why is it considered as one of the core discipline in agriculture?
Good afternoon all. So as madam explained that I belong to agronomy. So agronomy means it is the management of field. Now it starts from selection of the seed, starting from preparation of the field to harvesting of the crop. Now why knowledge regarding agronomy is important for agriculture. Now the first one is during the initial days, this agronomy is based on how to increase the production. During the time of Green Revolution, we think about increasing the production so that we can feed the large amount of population. For that, we utilize high yielding varieties, high amount of chemical fertilizers, high amount of inputs. So, and we somehow practice this mechanized farming. But as the time goes on, there is a scenario arises from this Indian agriculture that due to application of huge amount of fertilizers, the soil is rendered barren, or there is less amount of soil, the fertility of the soil reduces, and also which is impacting the other natural resources like the contamination of groundwater with nitrate pollution. So as the time goes on, then we move on to practicing this organic farming or natural agriculture, whatever we say, so that we can use more organic inputs in place of chemical inputs, so that we can sustainably use the resources for deriving the benefits for our generation and keeping intact the resource base for the future generation. Now, the next question Madam asked is how this technology of agronomy changes from time to time. Now, as I discussed at initial days, farmers are more concerned about putting more irrigation water. So as I tell, initially it was about increasing the production, and now it is considered concentrated on increasing the resource use efficiency. The various resources used in agriculture like water, land, and fertilizer, okay, in the preparation of fertilizer, resources like fossil fuels are used. Now, how to increase this resource use efficiency? So in the initial days, we plowed the soil to provide the irrigation water for the crop use. But nowadays, methods like micro irrigation methods like sprinkler irrigation, drip irrigation, deficit irrigation are developed so that we can get a large amount of crop using a less quantity of water. That means the crop do not require water according to the farmer. It requires the water according to its own. So as like human beings, we do not drink water throughout the day. We need water when we are thirsty. So when we are applying some fertilizer, or when there is a critical growth stage of the crop, that means the crop is at its peak growth stage. So those stages are very sensible for this water. So in those stages, if we provide the water, checking the irrigation in other stages, so that we can improve the crop productivity per unit of water we applied. Now the next one is taking the example of this fertilizer. In initial days, we provide this nitrogen fertilizer in broadcasting method, or whatever, when the crop is not requiring it actually. Due to that, there is a huge amount of nitrogen losses occurring to the, which made the groundwater and pollute the groundwater table. So to reduce that, we can go for methods like sulfur coated urea or neem coated urea. In neem coated urea, this neem will act as a nitrification inhibitor, which is most which is this nitrification is the process required in the soil to get the to available the applied nitrogen for the plants. Now, when there will be checking of this nitrification process, the same amount of fertilizer is stored inside the soil, and the availability, duration of availability increases so that the crop can take up it from the soil and reducing the losses. So these are some of the aspects we deals with agronomy. Thank you.
Very true, sir. Thank you so much for it. Before we move on to the next question to you, sir, I would like to request all our viewers, if you have any questions, you can put up in the comments, and if time permits, we would be very happy to answer them. So, sir, you have been teaching agriculture in the department, and you would be definitely coming across many students who, especially the aspirants, who would like to know more on what are the different career options after you complete studying BSc Honors in Agriculture, and also what do you exactly study in this 4-year degree program?
Okay, so there are two questions. The first question is, what are the career options? Regarding the career options, I can say this agriculture sector is a huge amount of career options, and the inbuilt is the enterpriser option. The student can be an enterpriser without investing huge amount of money, because he has the talent to use the knowledge in the field condition. Now, regarding the employment options, they can, like the normal BSc graduates, they can also appear for the state and central level competitive exams. There is sectors like banking and insurance sector, in which field officer, rural development officer positions are there. Or they can be sought by the private sector companies who are dealing with this agriculture, like Dhanuka, if Nagarjuna Fertilizers. They can also be taken by the NGOs working in this agriculture sector, like Pradhan and Center for Dignity, Center for Sustainable Agriculture. Also, they can go for management studies. So they can pursue management in the area of agribusiness management. So these are some of the career, and if they are pursuing higher studies, they can be an academician, be a researcher in this area. So these are some of the agriculture employment generation, employment provided by the organization sector. But if in case he is do not getting any employment, he has his inbuilt knowledge to implement it, so that he is a job giver instead of a job seeker by doing this farming with some improved technologies. So in this post-COVID scenario time, so there will be the first difficulty faced by the farmer is monetary input. So if the this graduate has some idea to reduce the monetary cost involved in agriculture, then he can improve the returns getting from the farming operations. Like he can go for utilizing the organic recycling the farm residues, thereby reducing the fertilizer cost. Now the second one is if he is putting some value addition to the product, so that if the farmer is selling paddy directly to the market, whatever the economic return the farmer is getting, he will get much more economic return if he is selling the product in form of rice or in form of dal instead of raw pulses. So the third option is he can, as Dean sir told, that the role of middlemen should be minimized. A group of farmers in a form a cluster, and they will bring their resource products to the market directly, thereby cutting the part of the monetary output coming from this produce. So this is regarding the uh, carrier options in agriculture. Now, before going to the join some employment sector, it is required what are the studies we are going through this agricultural BSc agriculture. Now the subjects what we are taught is, first one is agronomy, in which we deal with field crops, we deal with agrometeorology, that means the science of atmosphere. Then we have to go through practical crop production of kharif crops and rabi crops, also precision agriculture, what are the problems of dryland agriculture and how they can be managed, and what are the different farming systems for different agroecological regions of India, and how a farmer can derive maximum input from a limited amount of resources, basically a marginal or a small farmer. Now the second thing is soil science, which deals with the formation, its management of the soil resources, and how a problematic soil can be managed. Now the third one is horticulture, which deals with production of fruit crops, vegetable crops, spices, and medicinal crops. Then comes entomology, dealing with the how to manage the insect pest in which is causing a huge amount of losses in agriculture crops, and also how to improve the or how to get some kind of knowledge about the beneficial insects like predators or bee. Then comes pathology. This subject deals with about mushroom cultivation and how to deal with the plant diseases caused due to virus, fungus, etc. Now the next part is plant breeding. So in this, what are the basic knowledge of the physiological process which has some amount of effect on the plant behavior, and how to go for breeding a crop in considering a particular type of situation. Then comes agricultural statistics. So for collection of data, what is the best sampling method, how to collect this data, how to tabulation of this data, how to analyze the data. These are some of the aspects covered in this statistics part. Then comes your economics. Now in economics, what is agriculture, how agricultural marketing can be done in a suitable way or in a profitable way. Those things are take care of during this agricultural economics. Then comes agricultural extension. The most important thing, as are told, will play an important role during the post COVID-19 times, the transfer of technology. So these thing is dealt by the extension persons, and simultaneously how to improve the behavioral aspect of a person who is dealing with the agriculture. So these are some of the topics what a student need to go through in a BSc agriculture career. And And the last 2 semesters is of completely experiential learning. Like the first semester is of RAWE, Rural Agricultural Work Experience, in which the farmer is attached with some the student is attached with some farmers from to know about what is the farming techniques or what are the principal crops of that region in practical. And he has to collect data from the farmer so that he can identify what are the problems occurred in or the farmer is going through. Then the next semester is of industrial attachment. So in industrial attachment, the student is exposed to the industry or attached to the industry so that he can know how this tissue culture is happening, or how this processing of the fruits to prepare juices. So like how the seed is produced or procured from the farmer. So these are the things he has to cover in the last semester. So these are all the aspects the farmer needs to go through through its 4 year of career.
Yeah, add to the discussion points what Subrat was mentioning. The COVID scenario will also provide an option or opportunity for the farmers to build the rural enterprises, because the value addition at the source itself. Because currently, what is happening here is most of the produce produced at the farming sector is transported to the nearest processing unit where the value addition happens. Right now, the current scenario will also give an option or opportunity for the farmers to find a ways to add value to the produce at the source itself in the rural areas, so that they can produce the value added product, they can sell it at premium rates in the market. So earlier, what they did was they sold their produce to the person who was service providers for the other community. Right now, farmers have an option to he himself becomes a small rural enterprise. He can build a small rural enterprise. He can process the produce at source, so they can add the value to this produce and then sell it in the market as directly, instead of depending on someone to process the produce and sell it in the market. So the farmer will be loser at that time. Right now, farmer can really control that market of value added produce. That is also one of the opportunities now this COVID scenario produces, because all the produce that is produced, it stays in the rural areas itself, because of the transportation is an issue right now. So that will also have it will give a farmers a thought process, how best I can utilize the produce which I have produced at the farm, what kind of value addition avenues I have. So these are all the areas farmers will start experimenting themselves. How best I can sell this produce which is available with me. So farmers will have an option to experiment or find a new ways of finding a market for their produce. So this will also help in spurt of rural enterprises. This is going to be the scenario right now because of the COVID scenario. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm sorry to suddenly disappear, but there have been very strong winds outside in the campus, and that has suddenly disconnected the entire thing. So coming back, sir, as I was hearing from Subrat sir regarding having entrepreneurship as one of the opportunity, and here in the university, I have been seeing multiple times the student creating different models. So one question to you, to Dean sir, is also, how are we encouraging our students in becoming agripreneurs?
Subrat, want to take up this? Subrat, you can start giving out your ideas, then I will join you at the later. Yeah.
Yes. Now, as the students is going through a large number of practices, which is practically important in today's society. As we know, the first thing, suppose we know many of people are going for vegetarian diet today. So they need a huge amount of protein in their diet. So this agricultural enterprises like mushroom production, so can be taken up so that the farmer or the population of targeted audience population can get a huge amount of easily digestible biological protein. So the second factor is production of vermicomposting. As we discussed that in the post-COVID scenario, there will be a the farmer will face a huge amount of stress regarding the monetary input. So if the farmer, the graduates who is passing out from this BSc agriculture go for vermicomposting or azolla production, which are regarded as biofertilizers or organic manures, which they have a huge amount of demand in the market, and by using those techniques, the student can get a huge amount of benefits. So suppose going for crops produced in poly houses. So if the let us consider some situation when suppose a seasonal crop is there, but which is required in the other season, suppose flower. So if we create some kind of arrangement to provide the conditions suitable for that flower production inside a poly house, then we can get the produces which can be sold in the market during the time of maximum demand, so thereby increasing the enterprise quality of the graduate. So now I can say
Yeah.
speak
So
about.
add to the point which Subrat was discussing. Yes, we have been training students to become entrepreneurs on their own. We have been asking students to come out with the new innovative ideas, which is typically related to the agriculture sector. I think 2-3 groups of students already come out with new ideas. They have gone to the competition. They have won the competition. I think Subrat was also part of this activity. He joined along with the students. Some of the 2 projects are innovative thought process, how best we can use the waste material, how best we can optimize or upscale the waste material, what we call as, that can be recycled back to the system, which is typically agriculture. So there are some ideas that are coming out with the student. There are several ideas. Agriculture sector which provides a multitude of opportunities when it comes to career. The person who is graduating from agriculture with an agricultural degree or horticulture or agribusiness, he can become entrepreneur because there are several avenues. For example, Subrat was mentioning about mushroom for that matter. Right now, what is happening here is, whatever the mushroom that is produced, it is sold directly in the market just as a table mushroom. You can be used directly for the cooking or preparing some food items. But unfortunately, nobody has thought about how to process this mushroom, add the value to that, so that that can be sold in the market easily without any difficulty, so that it will find a market easily because it has been value added. How to process these material, for example, beekeeping for that matter. Right now, honey has large demand. We still do not know how to produce a good amount of honey. How many of us eat honey every day? No, we don't eat, even though we know that it has high nutrition, which is also good for the health. So we don't eat honey because it is not available in plenty of quantity at minimum cost, because the demand and the demand and the supply is mismatched. There is a mismatch. So meaning, these are all the areas the student, those who are passing out, can take up as a business model, entrepreneurs. We can become an entrepreneur because they have learned the methods or approaches or scientific knowledge which is required to either to cultivate the mushroom, how to value add. For example, the course which we are going to start, the new course, Food and Nutrition, which has the food processing aspect as a major topic there, or nutritional value of the food, or the health risk, whatever the health related aspect, or natural chemicals which are available in the food material that is typically coming from the agriculture sector. These are all the areas somebody has to think innovatively. At the same time, agricultural sector also produces large amount of waste which can be recycled, which we don't know. We are not utilizing the potential. We are utilizing the minimum level, maybe to the extent of 10%, not to the extent of, if somebody can utilize the waste which is available in the agriculture to the extent of 50 to 60%, definitely we can reduce the cost on the use of chemical fertilizers. How many of the farmers are utilizing vermicompost? They do not know how to use the produce the vermicompost on their farm itself, even though they have plenty of organic residues which is available on the farm. They need not go in search of the organic residues. There is a huge amount of biomass which is available on the farm, which can be turned into compost. Meaning, the entrepreneurship options for the student, those who are passing out, there is a plenty of option. And also NABARD, that's the one of the banking sector which is typically supporting the agriculture sector, NABARD has several funding options. These students, once they pass out, definitely they can submit a proposal on any of these skills or ideas they want to build a business around it. The NABARD supports the projects. They give a lot of funds. There is a huge amount of subsidy which is also available for this kind of activities that typically supports all the students, those who are passing out from agriculture with one or the other degree. Either it can be agriculture, horticulture, agribusiness, or food and nutrition, or any other degrees which are typically common to the state agricultural universities. Meaning the options are plenty, career options are multitude. Only thing is the initiative has to come from the student, those who are passing out. He should be a risk taker. Once he takes a risk, if he jumps into some idea, if he pursues that idea, definitely he can become a successful entrepreneur in agricultural activity, whatever the idea is. The point I'm trying to make here is the career options and entrepreneurship options are multitude and plenty. Unmute, please. Unmute. You have to unmute.
Yes, sir. So whatever you mentioned, I think that holds not only to a student studying agriculture, but whichever field, that the driving willpower needs to be with the student, and then the opportunities are a lot. So I would like to now come to our third panel member, and that is Dr. Shiva Lakshmi. So Dr. Shiva Lakshmi, the question for you is more with respect to our BSc Honors in Horticulture program. This is a question which many new aspirants have in their mind. What exactly do you study in horticulture? What does it mean? What does it comprise of? And when we know there is so much of scope, especially in Odisha for horticulture, why are we not able to see that, the kind of students taking up that task? Can you just put a little light on this?
Okay, welcome to all from Faculty of Agriculture. Coming to the horticulture, specifically this is a branch of agriculture, and this is a part of agriculture which deals with the protective food. That means in agriculture, this is the overall scenario, but in case of horticulture, we are specialized for food, fruits, vegetables, medicinal plants, flowers, post-harvest technology. So these are the different aspects of horticulture which we go through vividly. But in case of agriculture, we know about horticulture. That means this is a little bit thing. In case of the program that is BSc Honors, that is BSc Honors Horticulture, we go through details of the fruits, details of vegetables, details of flowers, and how the different post-harvest technology. That means coming to this scenario, that is COVID post, that means lockdown scenario, or when the concept is immune boosting system, all are thinking about that how can we raise the immune system. So basically horticulture deals with the protective part. That means we have different type of food, like bodybuilding food, regulating food, energy giving food. Coming to the horticulture, it gives the protective food. That means the fruits and vegetables which are basically rich in minerals, vitamins. So all these things came from the horticulture aspects. So offering the course that is BSc Honors Horticulture, it deals directly with the fruits and all aspects. That means cultural practices of fruits, breeding program of the fruits, management aspects, that means protection, cultivation aspects, everything including fruits. Then coming to the different vegetables, like we may go for high value vegetables, like most of the vegetable, that means capsicum, cherry tomato, or Brussels sprout, broccoli. These are the very nutritive vegetable, as well as which give high market price. Instead of the most of the agronomical crop, we can fetch high value coming from the less area. That means per unit area production, in the productivity of these crops are very high, so that we can fetch a better market price. So this is the important of the crop. Then the next important is floriculture. Most of the cases we are sufficient in food grain production, so now we think of some of the aesthetic purpose. We go for the greenhouse cultivation, protected cultivation, or we go for rooftop gardening, terrace gardening, urban farming, vertical gardening. All these things came under the when we go for landscaping, that means designing any garden or planning any corporate garden, or any garden in a particular area, or it may be a sacred garden, it may be anything. So all these things came under the horticulture aspects. So basically horticulture add value to the agriculture. So this thing that this means this is a colorful part. Most of the cases we studied about the, and again coming to the medicinal plants nowadays, traditional aspects. So again it come to different types of medicinal plant. What are the medicinal value? Which chemical compound is this? So all these things, their cultivation aspects, their protection scenario, these things are come under horticulture. Then with this course, that means fruits, vegetable, floriculture, all the natural resource management courses like soil science, like protection part, and social science part also, all these things come under the course curriculum. So basically this is an overall approach how to deal with an horticultural part. That means most of the cases we are going for the orchard crops, or we go for the fruits, vegetable, flowers. Again, another aspects of horticulture is that is post harvest management. We all are, most of the cases coming to the this generation, we are very much, we does not like tomato, but we like tomato ketchup, we like tomato sauce. So all these things, that means the post harvest scenario of the fruits, vegetable, flowers, everything come under horticulture. So this can give you, or this course, particularly pursuing study in this course, we have a very vivid idea and a greater opportunity of this course for entrepreneurship development, or coming, that means carry forward of the course is very high. Then in case of coming to the specifically Odisha, in Odisha most of the land, that means we are going to the laterite soil. So most of the horticultural crops are the that means fruit crops or the plantation crops like cashew nut, coconut. If we going for that, that means very less minor important fruit crops, like the fruit crop which are very less importance, like custard apple or jackfruit. They have high potential nutrient capacity. So in, and again important is that they require very less management. That means we does not have to go for so much management. We does not have to care daily to the crop. We does not have to require water for the daily to these crops. So we can, in the marginal land, in the wasteland area, we can go for the cultivation of these crops. So this is the potential of the particular land of Odisha, where we can develop so many things in horticulture. But the problem is that in policy development, again, in horticulture came to the importance after the introduction of NHM. That is in 2005, Odisha government has been introduced, all over India, it has been introduced that that means after introduction of NHM, there is so much importance in horticulture by rejuvenation of the old orchard. Most of the cases in Odisha, the land is covered with the horticultural crops, but we are not getting so much productivity due to the senile orchard. Most of the crops has been outold, so we have to again rejuvenate the orchard. So we have to study about this thing. After that, we can go for new plantation, or we can go for new commercial variety. We can get some more importance of this particular course, and which have a future throw. So this is very important for present scenario to build and to go for focusing on that particular part horticulture, so that Odisha will be very high, or this is an hotspot for horticulture.
Yeah, so just to add few more points for the horticulture sector, the course was introduced in Sri University with a reason. The state of Odisha has two resources in plenty. One is the soil in the state is very, very fertile, and it has assured water resources. And however, when I was talking to one of the resource person in agricultural department of agriculture, I just asked him why the horticulture has not been promoted in Odisha. His simple answer was, this state is prone to cyclone. So horticultural crop take long duration to establish. If there is one cyclone that comes, it will just destroy the entire orchard, so that we will not be able to re-establish within a short scale of time. But Odisha is not full of coast. It's beyond coast, there is a district that exists which are not prone to the cyclone. In those areas, horticulture can be promoted to a larger extent that has a potential to build horticultural crops in these areas. Either it's the seasonal crops or orchards or the plantation crops, which they fetch high values in the market. So there is a huge potential which exists in this state. And also, if you analyze back to the consumption pattern of this state, when it comes to the horticultural crops, most of the horticultural crops are still imported from other state, the neighboring state, meaning state is losing a lot of money to buy the produce which is produced elsewhere to import back to the state. So that there is a demand supply mismatch in the state. If the state can promote with candidates, those who are passing out from horticulture expertise, they can take up the horticulture activities. And also add to the point which Dr. Suvalakshmi was mentioning, the post-COVID scenario, there are two options that opens for the horticulture sector. There will be boom in production cultivation of horticultural crops. The production cultivation means use of polyhouses to produce a crop, but when season is not permitting to produce a particular crops, the yield of crop that is produced in a polyhouse is very, very high. It's almost 1.5 to 2 times, sometimes it is 3 times. See, that area will also have bigger potential when it comes to post-COVID scenario. And also the second option the farmer has is he can value out all these horticulture crops at the source itself, but he produces all the fruit crops or vegetable crops or high economic crops, either it's a cashew or certain plantation crops. He doesn't know how to find a market in a particular scenario. Probably he will get an option to value add to the produce, all the horticulture, the source itself, so that he can sell it in the market. These are all the two avenues the farmer who is practicing horticulture, he can benefit through the COVID scenario to promote value addition at source, sell it at premium rates in the market. So he need not go through and find a service provider. And also he can take up protected cultivation of particular crops which are having high value in the market. These are all the two areas which has high potential farmer in this state when it comes to horticulture.
Yeah. So does it also answer this next question, which we got it from one of our viewer, that how does the shelf life of fruits and vegetables be enhanced so that next time when we have such kind of situations, the farmers do not lose the crop. Instead, he can send it to the market at the right time.
Absolutely. For example, if the crop has a very less shelf life, he can find a way to value add at the source itself. He need not wait for the market to open up so that he can sell it, because it cannot be kept for a longer duration. He can segregate the produce. Those who are perishable, they cannot be kept for longer duration. He can find a way to value add to that produce so that he can sell an alternative market for that. Or he can find a market for the produce which can be kept for a longer duration. So there are ways, meaning farmer will start innovating himself. This current scenario will give an option for the farmers to think. His farmers will start thinking, I have this kind of varieties of produce on my which I produce on my land. How best I can segregate them as perishable produce so that I can take this into value addition? How best I can keep the produce which can be kept for a longer duration? Or for me, it is easy to find a market. So meaning farmers will also start experimenting so that they will not lose the money. They will find an alternative market. At the same time, they will start generating more and more revenue for the crop they grow on the piece of land. So these are all the ways. Only thing is, the farmer right now, he may not be well prepared when it comes to the scientific knowledge. He need to have to value add or utilize the produce he produced in the optimum level. That's where the graduates, those who are passing out from with a horticulture degree, in the future, they should be able to adapt to the scenario or manage the disaster so that they will practice skillfully, they can practice either it's agriculture or the horticulture or any other sector in the which is typical to agriculture, so that they know how to utilize the knowledge so that their produce is not wasted. They know how to add value to that. They also know that how to find a market. So these kind of innovative ideas will automatically come to the student who is educated or literate in the particular discipline. This is going to be a future. So the people will start adapting new methods to manage the disaster. Yeah.
I think this answers to many of the questions that students had about horticulture. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Dr. Suvalakshmi. Moving on to our third panel member, Dr. Anupama Singh. So I'm going to ask you a question, ma'am, and that is with respect to our unique program, which we are offering for the first time in India, which is BSc Honors in Agribusiness. So ma'am, what exactly do you mean by agribusiness? What exactly is being taught in this program? And what do you feel are the career prospects after studying agribusiness?
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. This agribusiness, it is a unique course itself, as it includes, or it is an interdisciplinary course which includes agriculture, horticulture, economics, marketing, business, everything in a single course. So in that course, we studied the crop as well as the horticultural crops from production point of view to the packaging of that product, or even the value addition of that product, and also the marketing of all those products into the easily available market, or to provide a specifically regarding the cost, as initially the agriculture or the horticulture, it is based only on the livelihood of the or the survival of the human being only. So it only fulfills the demand supply chain of the consumption, as well as, or you can say, the consumer and the farmer itself. But nowadays the farmers also want to earn more price, or the more uh, means he wants to become a more economically good or financially stable itself. So to just to mention, or just to support that financial stability to the farmers, we are going to provide a market as well as different industries which can process the products, as well as which can give the good amount of economics as well as the financial stability to the farmers itself. And when it comes to career opportunities, so as it is an interdisciplinary or a balanced uh, blend between all these departments, so all the, after graduating, all the fields of agriculture, horticulture, marketing, business, industries, all the fields are open to these students. They can start their own entrepreneurship also, as they know about the basic concepts of agriculture, horticulture, marketing, as well as resource economics also. So they can easily develop their own entrepreneurship. They can even build a business model for the different industries also, where they can provide their ideas to build up a good business model regarding agriculture, how to increase the shelf life of the agriculture produce as well as of the horticulture produce, either through packaging or either through the value added products or the processing of these materials. So these are all are the career opportunities where he can also go for higher education. And after higher education, the research activities are also open, like agriculture research scientist, as well as the agriculture development officer, marketing officer, farm manager. So these all posts are available for all those students which are doing graduation as well as post graduation in a particular subjects itself. So that is all from my side. If any other questions, so just
Yeah, let me add few more points here from my side. The course agribusiness was designed aiming with the current needs. Currently, whatever the programs which are offered by state agricultural universities, it is typically more towards theoretical aspect. For example, BSc Honors in Agriculture, it talks about the theory aspect of the agriculture. What are the scientific methods of managing a crop? The same is applicable to horticulture. Same is applicable to any other courses which are offered by the state agriculture university. This course is designed balancing both agricultural courses and also the management, agribusiness management courses. So it has a blend of all the basic courses which are typically taught in agriculture, horticulture, which is students will be learning all the basics of these courses which are offered in agriculture and also horticulture, and also they will be learning the courses which are typically related to the business management aspect. Meaning the student who is passing out from this degree program, he has a huge potential in the future, because the market which is having somebody who is having both the knowledge, the basics of the agriculture, and also he knows how to manage the business. The future career market will be looking for a candidate who has certain knowledge in agriculture, scientific knowledge in agricultural aspects, and also he knows how to build a business around it. So that means to say the candidate who pass out with agribusiness degree, they will have a huge potential in the future, unlike the graduates, those who are having a specific knowledge in agriculture or horticulture, meaning this is a blend of both basic science and also the marketing abilities. So student is groomed in that way. So I believe the future is more open for the candidate who has a degree in agribusiness. So they have a huge career options, or as my colleague identified, they have a lot of abilities to build their own entrepreneurs. So they can build their own business. They can have their own business because they know the scientific basis for the agriculture, and also they know the marketing principles. So in that sense, this course has a huge potential. I foresee that any candidate who passes from this, he will not have a difficulty in finding a job in current scenario.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Dr. Anupama. Coming on to our final panel member, Dr. Sneha Sheesh. And for Dr. Sneha Sheesh, we have a question. on the program that we are going to now launch in 2020, that's BSc Honors in Food, Nutrition and Dietetics. So Dr. Snehashish, I would like to ask you, what exactly does this program comprise of? Is it only about knowing the nutritional aspect of food, or it also includes the impact of food on the mind, on the body? Also, related to this, after studying this program for the 4 years, what are the different profiles or the work profiles which we can expect the student to do? Now, if you can answer in a much simpler language, like who should be studying the program, and why should he study the program?
Snehashish, you have to unmute. Oh, okay, now.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, ma'am, for the question. So this course, BSc Honors.
Need to be a little louder, Dr. Snehashish. You may hold the mic a little closer.
Okay. And this BSc Honors Food Nutrition Dietetics, this is a very unique course we're offering. This would be launched from this 2020, and this will be a 4-year program. And yes, there are very unique mode of this allotment of various credits over 4 years and over this 8 semesters. Yes, this has very good importance not only to in terms of the nutrition, but also its impact on the mind as well as body. So the nutrition is basically the composition part, but the dietetics part will be in terms of whatever you're taking, what it has impact on our human health. So yes, in the current scenario, we are having tremendous quantity of food production by India. We are having, by a recent study by NABARD, whatever the food storage is India is having right now, we can feed our Indians, our people over 1.5 year again. But in terms of the quality, in terms of its applicability to human health, that is the question. So in that point, this offering this course, and those students those who will study this course, this will be having a tremendous impact. And yes, as India is a developing country, we are in the ladder of our economic growth. So obviously, we will be more conscious about what we are taking as food. So in terms of what it is having impact on our health, as well as what is it's having impact on our lifestyle. So under the current scenario, the choices of our food, this will be having a tremendous impact, because in current scenario, various new diseases are coming. So in terms of boosting our immunity, in terms of boosting our capability to face new biotic challenges. So this studying this course will be definitely having tremendous impact in the career of our students. And if you see the questions regarding the future career, yes, it is having a tremendous opportunities for the students. Again, it depends upon the driving force among the students. The opportunities are many. So if once there will be a graduate, the various food industries, so they will be recruiting various graduates of this food nutrition. So as their quality checkers, so various packaged foods or various innovative improved method of protecting our food products. In that point, various multinational companies, various food industries, they'll be requiring the students of BSc Honors Food Nutrition and Dietetics. And yes, in various hospitals, both in private and government sectors, they will be recruiting. Right now, they're requiring various registered dietitian in terms of checking the health of various patients in their own compounds. So, and yes, we are talking about to be Atmanirbhar, to be self-employed. So yes, after gaining experience also, they can open their own consultation units. They can be independent dietitians. So various diabetic centers, fitness-oriented courses, various weight loss programs, or to advising various individuals regarding their diet plans, so that they can also open their own consultation firms. Yes, and also if they are much more interested, they can also go for higher studies and research. That path is always open for them. So yes, we are looking forward to our new batch of students. So there are tremendous opportunities for this course.
Okay, to add few more points to the my colleagues' explanation about the new program which we are going to start, that is the BSc Honors in Food, Nutrition and Dietetics. If you see the core courses we are going to, the students who are going to learn in this program, it includes principles of human nutrition, normal nutrition and meal planning, therapeutic nutrition, food analysis, food chemistry, food microbiology, methods of cookery, food processing and packaging, food preservation and storage, clinical nutrition, community nutrition, nutritional education, food hygiene and sanitation, food standards and quality control. These are all the nutraceuticals and health foods, public health nutrition, sports nutrition, physical fitness, nutrition in emergencies. That's what we are going through right now. We were talking about how best we can build the immunity by having a balanced nutrition in your food. The nutrition in emergencies, nutrition through life cycle, milk and milk products and preparation of glycation. These are all the just indicative course curriculum we have in this program, meaning this is a program which has a futuristic view. For example, nowadays every human being is conscious about the food he eats and what kind of nutrition it has, how healthy that food is. Any student who is graduating from this course, he should be able to give or become a person what the career options. He can be sports nutritionist, administrative nutritionist, nutritional trainer, food consultant, and therapeutic dietitian, public health and community dietitian, food show host. This is also one of the infancy right now. People are trying to market the traditional foods in the open market. People are becoming more aware of the value of the traditional food. This course also has certain courses where students will be learning the value or nutritional value of the traditional foods, and also what kind of health risk will be there when you consume food which is not nutritionally balanced. So meaning he can become a gym trainer also, he can become a FMCG companies, he can find a job in FMCG companies, he can be becoming a practitioner of traditional food and nutrition. He can also opt for the higher studies, meaning this course is uniquely placed because the future is going to be in this direction. People are becoming more and more conscious about the nutrition of the food they eat and the health risk which is associated with the food we eat. So meaning the graduates, those who are passing out, definitely they will have a huge potential in the future, because the food, the agricultural sector, which is currently, that is the food is coming from the agricultural sector, is full of chemicals. The only area where the graduates, those who are passing out this kind of expertise, they should be able to mix and match all the produce that is coming out for the agricultural sectors, make or suggest or come out with the new thought process so that this food can be healthy for you. This food has this kind of nutritional value. So that kind of scenarios will come up in the later stage, so that they will have a full potential to utilize this kind of scenarios to promote their knowledge which they carry. So meaning this program has a huge potential in the future.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really informative. Thank you so much, Dr. Snehashish. So before we move on to the final phase of this session, I would like to share with all our viewers that under the Faculty of Agriculture, we are offering 4 programs: BSc Honors in Agriculture, BSc Honors in Horticulture, BSc Honors in Food, Nutrition and Dietetics, and BSc Honors in Agribusiness. These are all 4-year programs post your 12th class. And for more information, you're welcome to visit our website. We would love to connect with you, guide you more on that, and also connect with you to our faculty members if you wish to. Coming back to our final phase of discussion. So, sir, the question for you, there have been many questions that are coming regarding climate. What, according to you, do you feel is the climate resilient architecture, agriculture a myth? Or can agricultural development cope with these current climate changes? So a lot of questions are coming up on this global warming and climate changes scenario.
Yeah, the scenario what we have right now, the climate change is a visible thing. It is experienced everywhere across the globe. Everybody realizes that the temperature is increasing every decade or annual basis. Usually the prediction of change in the temperature rise on annual basis is very difficult because the change is a minor. It is in a small fraction of change will be there in the temperature. But in a decadal scale, it should be able to understand how the temperatures are changing across the globe. Definitely the change in the temperature is the only driver that will have a bigger impact on the agriculture productivity in different agroclimatic scenarios, because each country has a different climatic temperature zones. So country like us, we are tropical country where the temperature is always high. Most of the states in this country, they enjoy the tropical climatic conditions. So in this country, the climate change has its own impact. The impact can be in terms of the rainfall pattern. Rainfall pattern means the amount of rain received per season can be erratic or minimal or excess. In those scenarios, definitely the cropping pattern will also change. In a scenario where the climate impact is very high, where the rainfall is less, the drought scenarios are increasing, the drought spells. Annually, the drought spells are increasing in different agroclimatic zones. If the drought spell is very high, meaning the temperature has increased in that particular climatic areas because that particular area receives less rainfall. Under those conditions, the drought, because of drought, it will restrict the cultivation of crops. Those are the meaning he cannot cultivate a crop which is high yielding because he has no sufficient water to cultivate that crop, meaning it will restrict to some particular crops. They are less yielding, but definitely they have a high nutritional value. That will also change the scenario. At the same time, what is happening in Indian scenarios? Earlier, farmers practiced multi-cropping system for a unit landscape. Right now, the scenario is it is monocropping. Monocropping system is more prone for climatic disaster, whatever the disaster it can be, the drought or high temperature or excess rainfall. Under these conditions, the monocropping cannot produce an yield. For example, if there is a drought, if he is growing only one crop, definitely he cannot get any return out of it. Meaning, the smart way of doing agriculture is the only way farmers can sustain under the conditions of climate change scenarios. Climate change scenarios cannot be uniform across the agroclimatic scenarios. It can be one place, it can be very high impact, one place it can be less impact. Meaning the farmer should adopt a smart agricultural ways. Means smart agriculture means he should be able to adapt to the scenario, he should be able to identify which is the cropping pattern which has resilience for the climate change scenarios. Meaning it is also, some people they call it as climate smart agriculture, where the farmer will exercise certain inbuilt traditional knowledge and also the scientific knowledge which is available elsewhere. He will mix and match those knowledges and will try to practice agriculture so that it's a smart way of choosing a crop which is resilient to the climate change scenarios. Still he can derive a crop. Likewise, you can also build a climate resilient cropping system where you have multiple cropping system. If one crop fails, there is another crop which is tolerant to the high temperature scenarios. Still he should be able to harvest. Meaning the monoculture is not suggested for the climate change scenarios, which can be very disastrous for the farmers. He will not be able to derive any yield. If he can bring in the crops, he mixes and matches in such a way that there are crops, they are sensitive for climate change scenarios, there are crops, they are all resistant or tolerant to the climate change scenarios. If he brings in that kind of thought process into cropping system, so that if unknown scenario, for example, some season there is no sufficient rainfall, if he has a crop which is drought tolerant, definitely he will be able to harvest certain crops. There are crops which are drought tolerant, there are crops that are sensitive for drought scenarios. If he mixes both sensitive crops and also tolerant crops, at least if one crop fails, there is other crop which is tolerant, he should be able to derive certain yields. So meaning my belief is this: the farmer which he was practicing traditional knowledge, which was existing with the farmers based on the wisdom he carried, definitely those are all the farming practices, they are going to come back again in a later stage where climate change is to a drastic level, where the modern agriculture will not be able to cannot be practiced in the climate change scenarios. Meaning the traditional way of agriculture, where earlier farmers, it is called subsistence agriculture, where farmers grew the crop to meet his day-to-day requirement or livelihood system. Whatever the excess he had, he shared with other farmers or in barter exchange for other grain items or other food items. So meaning the traditional way of farming is to come back. That's what we call as organic farming, biodynamic farming, or permanent agriculture. These are all the systems they are going to return back in the later stage when we start realizing that climate change is going to happen in a bigger scale. So meaning we need to be smart in taking up the agricultural activities. At the same time, we have to build the resilient way of practicing the agriculture. For example, resilience means you have to bring in all the tools and technologies, knowledge, wisdom, which is available to the farmer, integrate into the agricultural system so that he will be able to cultivate the crop, he will be able to sustain the yield potential of the particular landscape. This climate change scenario is very, very complex. It can affect differentially. It need not be uniform across the landscape. It can affect differentially. One area it is disastrous for one area because it may have high temperature. So where the crops cannot tolerate that kind of high temperature, so that it can cause a high sterility in crops. In some cases, it may have a lesser impact. Under those conditions, only two principles he has to use in his cropping system is, one is smart way of selecting a crop which is suitable for his landscape or the climatic conditions, and also build the resilience of his agricultural landscape by including many crops, either they are sensitive or resistant to either to the soil conditions or the less moisture content or less rainfall scenarios. Meaning this kind of agriculture is going to come back again, meaning traditional way of farming is going to come back again. It will be, the requirement right now is how best we can revitalize the traditional way of farming. That is what is the real challenge before either for the practitioners or the academicians or the graduates, those who are passing out having a degree from different discipline. So it is going to be a challenge. It is also an opportunity for them.
I think it really answers all the questions that have come on this climate change, and it's been really exhaustive and informative. Thank you so much for that, sir. Finally, just one last comment or a one-line advice which you can give to our young aspirants who are waiting to come and study at Sri Sri University. We understand that at Sri Sri University, we are having flooding applications since the day of inception of our Faculty of Agriculture. So getting a seat is a very big deal. But still, what can be one advice of you to these young people who are right now preparing for their exams, the 12th class exams, or have just given the exams?
Yeah, I will start with saying a few things. In our programs at Faculty of Agriculture, it's a small family. We treat ourselves as a small family, and we are highly student-centric. We take care of students as our friends. We interact with the students very closely, and we always try to integrate experiential learning in our course curricula. These are all the practices we have been doing it. What I would say here is become a farmer. That's a beautiful profession you can take up in the future. Become a farmer.
Fantastic. I think this is the punchline of this session. So before we close on, we would like to show a short video of Sri Sri Universities to all our viewers.
We live in a world that is constantly changing and evolving. And to face global challenges, we need people with dynamic personalities. Odisha, the next generation of decision makers and leaders are groomed with the purpose to learn, lead, and serve. It is emerging as a center of premium education in India, blending the best of East and West. This university has a unique approach to education that combines Western innovation with the ancient values and wisdom from the East. It is one of India's first alcohol, drug, and smoke-free campus. Spread across 187 acres of land and located on a hilltop on the banks of the Mahanadi River. The sprawling and beautiful campus is inspired by the ancient universities of Nalanda and Takshashila. thousands of students from across the 28 states of India and several countries of the world called Sri Sri University their home.
If I had to point out that one thing that really makes me feel special about studying at SSU, it would be that synergy between the students. And that, I think, is the most special thing.
I'm sure that these students will make decisions in the near future that will change the world for the better.
I'm really happy to be here, and with every day I understand more how I appreciate this time.
Sri Sri University offers courses from an undergrad to a master's level and also PhDs. Sri Sri University is one of the first universities in all of Asia to introduce osteopathy, a drug-free, non-invasive manual therapy that aims to bring a revolution in the path of medical science. Yoga, meditation, and spiritual values are the foundations on which the university stands tall, and it is these that are shaping the personalities of our students inside out.
You know, there is no ragging happening, there is no one picking on each other. And that is really important, I feel. The environment of the university is such that the emotional quotient automatically develops in a person.
This is my 4th year in SSU, and I have seen a transformation on a very large scale in my life.
It gives you more than it promises, so that's all a person can ask for.
Sports is a way of life at Sri Sri University and is clearly exhibited in this vibrant campus and its students. The annual Fest Orion is the biggest social celebration in Odisha and Eastern India, with the ambition of becoming the best annual fest in the world. Our alumni have been placed in some of the top multinationals, while some have set forth to create successful startups of their own.
Sri Sri University was one place I looked at where I feel I could learn more than just what's in the books, because at the end of the day, I realized it's a lot about handling people more than systems. It's about actually coming together and making a difference. And you don't find that so easily.
In 2018, Sri Sri University was awarded the Best Bootcamp Startup Award by the Government of Odisha. Right from its year of inception, Sri Sri University has been recognized with several other such awards. Our vision is to impart holistic and value-integrated education in order to develop visionary thinkers and leaders. The revolution in education has begun.
So coming to an end, it was really an insightful and an informative session with each of you. I really thank our Dean Sir, Professor Kumaraswamy, for giving an opportunity to have such a kind of discussion and to also update and educate all the aspirants who are really interested to pursue their careers in this field. I thank Dr. Anupama, I thank Dr. Snehashish, I thank Mr. Subrat and also Dr. Suvalakshmi for joining us in this discussion.
Yeah, before I close, I would like to thank Gayatri for organizing this program. This was wonderful. And also I thank all my colleagues who joined for the session. And this is, once again, I want to reiterate and re-emphasize, all the aspirants come to us. Agriculture is the field, future is in agriculture. Join us. All the best. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.